We're recording. We are recording, and now we are going to go live to our streaming services. And here we go. And we are live. We are live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome.
Hey, everybody.
We're almost there. We're almost there. We're welcoming. We're welcoming. We're welcoming. We are now live. Yes, we are. Welcome, everybody. This is Jan Landy. Welcome to our current events show. Today is whatever it is, March 8th at 5 o'clock Las Vegas time. You know where you are right now. So if you're listening to this, you know when we've recorded it. Welcome, everybody. Just remember, everything you hear today is an opinion. And today we will cover everything in the news that affects us as people and in our industry, whatever industry you might be in, because you are people and you're in the industry, whatever industry you are, even if it's the retirement industry and you're retired and doing nothing. So, hey, welcome, everybody. Before I cover the subjects that I wanted to cover, does anybody have anything that they want to say?
I'm never going to be retired because I'm already tired from the first time.
Yeah, well, there you have it. Yes, you know, retirement is not all it's cracked up to be. I have to tell you, waking up when you want, eating whatever you want, going to the gym whenever you want, talking to people you want to,
what a rough life.
I guess retirement is pretty good. But you know what? They say that people that retire completely, they don't live as long. And that brings us to the teaser of the week. Today, we're going to talk about how old we feel. So stick around for that, and we will talk about that. There's a very interesting article in The Atlantic, and I told you I would talk about it this week. So, but before we go on to talk about how old we feel, I just want to I want to say how sorry I am to hear that guitarist Gary Rossington, who is the last surviving member of the band Lynyrd Skynyrd, he passed away. He was 71 years old, and may he rest in peace. I have an interesting story, or to me it's interesting, maybe not to you, but it's interesting to me about my first experience, and probably only experience, with Lynyrd Skynyrd. It was when I was just a mere stripling. I was about 19, 20, 21, somewhere around there. And I was living in New York at the time, and I heard that The Who was playing at Boston Garden. And so we hitchhiked up to Boston from New York and went to see our friend who had tickets. When we got there, the friend had made a mistake and did not have tickets. And seeing we had hitchhiked so long, I said to myself, look, I'm not going to just not go to this show. I'm going to figure a way how to get in. And she said, well, it's sold out. And nobody else wanted to go. So I went alone down to the Boston Gardens, and I had no experience at all of concerts, especially big ones, and I had no idea the opening act was Lynyrd Skynyrd, which it turns out that it was. Anyway, as I'm walking around, I found the truck exit on the entrance, and when I was 18, 19, I looked like I was about 14. And there was this guy sitting outside smoking. It turned out he was the truck driver. And him and I really got into a long conversation, and everybody saw us talking. And when he had to be called away, I just walked inside. And as I walked inside, someone said, hey, what are you doing here? And another guy said, hey, that's the truck driver's nephew. Oh, he says, wait, well, you need one of these. And he gave me a pass. And now I'm walking around inside, and who do I come up to is Ronnie Van Zant. He sees me, and he had heard when the guy said, hey, don't kick this guy out because he's the truck driver's nephew. He says, oh, that's our truck driver. Come on, let me introduce you to the rest of the band. And so he took me into the dressing room, and they were smoking pot. And of course, in those days, I was smoking pot too. And I had some really good pot, and we all got high together. And then it's a very interesting story, right, at least to me. So may he rest in peace. Anyway, let's see. What else?
Isn't that a Cameron Crowe movie? Isn't that a Cameron Crowe movie you just outlined right there?
Oh, it was part of it. It was part of that. But, it was like, hey, I wasn't a reporter. I was just there to have some fun. Welcome, Ken. Welcome to the room.
Kenny, hey.
Did you ever mix Lynyrd Skynyrd?
I like
Guess
that.
not. All right.
He's speechless.
So
This
anyway,
thing
so
works? Yeah.
so
Okay.
tell me,
Just
you
my
guys,
level control is not doing anything. Okay, cool.
we have two guys in California right now. What is going on with that snow?
Nothing. It's beautiful here.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I mean, where there's snow, there's snow, but where there's not snow, there's not snow. But the hills look beautiful in the distance. It's really nice.
Well, that's bringing the air temperature down where you are, I'm sure.
yeah, there's
No, it's not exactly warm, is it?
no, it's a little cool, but not cold, just cool.
It's like
Well,
60 or so.
Now they say that it's you have to expect floods now.
Well, there's another storm coming this week.
Yeah.
And it's mostly going to hit northern and middle California, but it'll, give us a little bit of precipitation here.
But it's going to be rain, not snow. So that's going to melt a lot of snow, and potentially you'll be watching floods on TV.
100 inches of snow in the San Bernardino Mountains. Now that's going to feed all the tributaries, and I guess your drought is now over officially.
That's
over.
That's what I want to know. What do you know, David?
Well, I know that what feeds the Sierras does not feed Lake Powell, and Lake Powell is not getting any of this snow. So
David, why don't you share your Lake Tahoe photo?
I'll show that in a minute. That's a good idea. The Lake Powell is going to stay as bad as it is because none of this snow goes to Lake Powell. It goes the other way. It goes
So,
down.
in other words, it's not helping our drought situation as much as it should.
No, it is. I've read that it is helping the drought situation in California. Now, maybe it's the drought in Northern California, but it depends what happens right now because they say as the rivers start to overflow, it won't fill up the basin as much as it needs to fill up. Can you believe it? You haven't had rain or snow in so many years. Now you get an abundance of rain and snow, and it's not going to help that much. I find that incredible.
I think it's helping some, but it's not like the drought is over or anything because I think there's two aspects to the drought. There's the aspect of lack of rain, and there's the aspect of poor water management, is what I've heard. So I feel like Roland has something to say. You got something to say there, Roland?
No, I just wanted David to share his picture. I'm in Albuquerque and we got 3 inches of snow, but the next day it was all gone. Temperature went up to 55, 56 degrees.
No, I thought it was about crime. Somebody stole all the snow.
That could be, it's for sure. And they're probably driving around without a license plate
Oh,
that
wow.
was stolen from Lisa's car.
Yes. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. That's the case.
Well, anyway, I'm anxious. I'm curious to hear the authorities, the people in charge of our water supplies, have some, say something official about our water supply, where it's at. Have you heard anything official, David?
Well, yeah, I heard that it was still part of the state is out of the drought. Part of the state is still in the drought. And the Colorado River is not getting anything. That's what I heard.
And what's the status of
in San Bernardino? An awful lot of snow.
Yeah, but that doesn't feed the Colorado River. That feeds LA and then the Pacific Ocean.
So what about Lake Mead? Is that affected at all?
Yeah, no, it's not getting any of that snow. All that snow goes west. It doesn't go east. So the Colorado River, Lake Mead, Lake Powell, unless it snows in Colorado and maybe New Mexico, none of it goes to what we need.
Yeah, interesting. Very, very interesting.
Very, very interesting.
Okay, so just a housekeeping. David, you got to have to mute your mic after you speak because you have evidently you have your mic close to your speakers and you don't have your echo suppression on in Zoom. So whenever somebody talks, we're hearing the feedback of what they're talking, and so I just muted you. But you need to mute yourself after you finish speaking. All right, thank you. Anyway, moving right along, did you guys hear about this? Speaking of weather, They just made an historic agreement with the UN after decades of talk that the High Seas Treaty aims to place 30% of the seas into a protected area by 2030 to safeguard and recuperate marine nature. And that is amazing. That happened at the UN. We'll throw up the article. You don't think that they're, look at that. Look at that picture there of, now that is Lake Tahoe, right, David? Well, David is muted. I'll tell you that's Lake Tahoe. I believe that's David's house in Lake Tahoe. I just hope there's no porn on that, whatever you're showing right there. There you go. Well, maybe I hope there is, but what the hell?
No point.
That would be rather chilly. How do you get out of your house? Dig your way out.
Well, a lot of people now are stuck in their houses.
Yes, it looks a bit like that. Oh, we got a little.
Look at that. That's my backyard. That's
That's
my
cool.
backyard.
A lawn wouldn't be very happy.
In Tahoe though, not in Hollywood, right?
Yeah, not in LA, no. No,
So
I
you-
don't get out of this. Stop shit.
I have some pictures to show also if it's show and tell time.
Good. Yes. Show and tell.
All right, so let's see. How do I do this now? I have 3 screens, so how do I pick what screen it shares?
Well, you click the share screen, and then it'll give you an opportunity to pick which screen you like. And that's your tip of the day.
All
And
right,
then we'll go
let's
back
see.
to
So
the
where's
story.
share screen? Where's share screen? Under video?
On the very
Perfect.
bottom, and the very bottom is a green button.
Oh yeah, there it is. Hello. Sheesh, am I blind or what?
Well, it's not that you're blind, you haven't done it before. So there you go. It's all new to you. So right now you're sharing my face, which is beautiful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's a good thing. So what type of pic? Well, let it be a surprise what he's sharing. The interesting thing that is, do you ever listen to the podcast version of this? You know, after when you're driving in your car and listening around to this, I listened to it myself, and actually last week was quite funny. I hope this week matches up to the humor of last week, right? In a little while, we'll be going to Ask the Expert. Kenny, you still there? Are you sharing?
I'm trying to, but okay, let me see what I got here.
All right, let me walk you through it so those people listening at home. At the bottom of your screen, there's a button that says share screen.
I'm doing it. So you're not getting it?
When you click it, then you have a choice. It'll give you another screen. There you go. Now you're sharing it, and there it is. For those people that don't know what a highway looks like, this is what they call a highway in the United States.
Yeah, but the point is, look at that mountain in the distance. This is coming from Vegas to LA, and that mountain is normally just black. Okay, so the point is, it's covered in snow. This is about a week or 2 ago, but it was a lot of snow.
Beautiful, for spacious skies. There's no amber or waves of green, but there you go, waves of green.
That's a lot of snow.
Wow.
There was a lot of cars there not in their lanes in that highway. Does that normally happen?
No, it's because when you drive on the wrong side of the road.
Oh, I thought we drove on the right side of the road.
Wow, beautiful.
Yes.
If you like desert. Now, if you don't like desert, it's not so beautiful. Was that the dog?
So that's a desert. That's looking at a desert right now, isn't it?
That is definitely a desert full of snow. Yes.
Wow.
You could see the long strip of road. I mean, it's miles and miles and miles of strip between Las Vegas and Los Angeles. But it's a very interesting ride. Well, there you have it.
So is most of that road 2 lanes or 4 lanes?
For sharing.
It's 2 or 3 or 4 lanes in each direction, really.
Wow. And there's that much traffic in general from Vegas to LA?
On some days it gets very crowded. In fact, it even has tie-ups where it's wall-to-wall traffic and it's stopped. It's crazy sometimes.
Oh,
It's
it's
about
absolutely nuts.
It's about 300 miles, isn't it?
Almost exactly 300 miles. You go, there's the Hollywood Hills. How about that?
And that is really amazing.
I love the palm trees in the foreground and the snow in the background. That's so cool.
I can relate to I could relate to that. Not. I can't relate to that at all anymore. And I can't relate to that at all. And just to give you an idea of whose picture is that?
Is that the Lake Tahoe? Is that on Lake Tahoe with the mountain in the distance?
That's a very high mountain.
Yeah, you could see. Look in the back. You see the snow in the back, and then it's a lot of greenery
Green in the front. Yeah, in the front. That's great.
Yeah, where is that picture, David?
He's probably like me. Like when you got your photo album up and you hit the space bar to talk, it like makes the picture go away, you know?
Yeah, basically. So that's what you guys. So David, explain that picture that you just showed.
That picture is Ventura County. I was
No shit, right up the street from me, huh?
Yeah, I found it on Facebook, but it's such a good picture. I mean, the green, and the white, and the blue ocean, and
was that the ocean, or that was a lake?
No, that was the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, how about that?
And that was just a boat was perfectly placed. The guy really took a great picture, you know.
Right.
So I captured.
Well, now I'm going to show you the snow where I am, right there. And there you go. As you can see, that was just taken this weekend, where I went up to what they call PP Island in Pagna Bay. And so, as you can see, the water's beautiful, and that's where they filmed
not so much.
Not so much snow, but that's where they filmed James Bond.
But I mean, those hills look amazing. I mean, did you go to those hills?
Yeah, they're basically. Let me go to another photo here. Let me show you.
Where Man with
what
the Golden
it is.
Gun was filmed.
Yeah, that's where they filmed James Bond, Dr. No, I believe. And let me see if I could show you. Let me get a close up of it, if I can. We went into these caves. Here, this picture should probably show it to a little bit more. With the group that we were with, there was only about 8 of us, and this is, as you could see, as you look around, there are the caves, and we actually went into the cave, and it was unbelievably beautiful inside the cave.
So there's water like that in the cave, and you just canoe right in there, or whatever that was.
Yeah, let me just show you this. We were on kayaks. And
okay.
Yeah, let me share the screen again, and there we go. And so that is that. Now we're inside, and it opens up after you go through the cave.
Wow, that's spectacular, huh?
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I mean, it looks like you're in another world, you know.
It is another world, and this is we got off the kayak, and this is what it was like inside, and you could see that it was low tide, and so we were able to walk around inside. If there's here's a quick video, if it'll allow me to do it.
Oh,
It's really
that's
cool.
amazing.
Yeah, it was, if you go up to Facebook, I'll be posting the pictures up there. So if you go to the only Jan Landy, if you can't find me, or just Google Jan Landy and then find my Facebook page.
Well, so speaking of caves, though, have you seen the movie Cocaine Bear?
This week.
No.
Have you seen it, David?
Oh, I'm going to see it this week.
Okay, well, we saw it last night. What do you know about it?
Oh, I know it's outrageous.
It is. I want to say it's great, but I don't know if I would call it great.
That's what everybody says. You love it, but you can't recommend it.
That's a good way of putting it. I was going to say my recommendation is it's surprising. I can tell you that.
cocaine and bears. Is that?
So here's the thing. It's one of those movies that they say is based on true facts. Okay, but the true facts are very limited. And now that I saw the movie and read the Wikipedia about the movie and about the incident, the true facts that it's based on is that in 1985, somebody was flying some cocaine in a small plane, and I don't know, the plane crashed, or somehow the cocaine ended up in the forest. Okay, so the bags and bags of cocaine, like millions and millions of dollars worth of cocaine in the forest, and sometime after that, they found a bear dead by the side of the road with some bags of cocaine next to him. Right, that's the truth. That's where the truth ends, and they made a beautiful, amazing, crazy story based on that concept right there. They're like, I wonder what happened to the bear. I wonder what the bear could have done. And they made a whole 2 hour, an hour and a half movie about the bear and the people near there and all this stuff. It's great. It's so amazing, but I don't know if I could recommend it.
Well, there you go. I think they have it here too in Thailand. I haven't even seen Back to Wakanda yet, which is probably that's out right now, right?
I don't know. I haven't seen that.
Which one?
Anyway, moving along. I want to go backwards because I said something to you guys and nobody seemed to really even care about it, about the ocean treaty, how they made this historic ocean treaty. And now 30% of the seas are going to be protected, which is more than amazing considering how much pollution there is out in the ocean. I mean, you're there in pristine waters, just absolutely pristine. And you look down and you see floating plastic, wherever you go now these days. I remember back in the late 80s, I was doing a bareback sailing cruise in the Greek islands off of Panormus Bay, Skopelos, and the water was as crystal clear as it could be. And I looked down about 25 feet, and there I saw all of these milk containers, plastic milk containers, and the 6-packs, the plastic thing that they put 6-packs of Cokes in. Well, of course, they've changed that now. They don't do that anymore. But those things are horrible, the way people just, litter, and they don't have any respect at all for the land, So I'm glad that they're doing that, and that could help us, all as people live a better life. So that's what I can
have
say.
you seen the posts on like Instagram and other social media about that project that is cleaning the oceans? They're basically dredging all the waste that we humans have put in the ocean, and they're taking it, bunches at a time out of the ocean.
It's more than impressive when you see these people do this. It's just, amazing that I'm glad that there are a lot of people that do put that into their life's work, and it's their passion and compassion to clean up the planet. I love it.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot more than what they've done, but that's a start.
Yeah. Actually, basically, they're doing that. They're also picking up, I know this is going to be hard for you to believe, but shrimp shells, they're collecting shrimp shells right now. And basically there is an article that I read in Bloomberg, which we'll post in there, that people are now wearing an alternative to leather, clothing made from shrimp shells. And basically what they do, it's not just the shell itself. They take the shell and they put it through some chemical process, and then they make some sort of a leatherette kind of material from it that they're making clothes. It's kind of interesting. Go check out the link. Tina will post it into the chat about the latest leather alternative that's made from shrimp shells. I don't know if you guys would ever wear something like that. Yeah.
First question I have is, what's a shrimp shell?
Well, when you get a shrimp, it's got the shrimp head, it's got the shrimp tail, it's got all these little feet in the middle. We usually just buy it at Costco, and they're frozen already, and just have a little tail, and you throw it away and eat the rest of the meat. But I guess
peeling shrimp, you peel.
Yeah.
Well, the peel. You mean that peel? That's not very thick. That stuff you peel the shrimp.
But you don't want to chew it.
Oh,
you don't want to chew it. And do you know that that the CIA has been making the most ultimate poison on the planet comes from bad seafood that they have They use it as a poison pill. I don't know if you know that, but seafood
Yikes.
poisoning is horrendous. I didn't have a CIA case of it, but I had a personal case of eating bad shrimp once. And believe me, it's a horrible experience.
Paul,
So that's the basis of some poisons these days, huh?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Are the cops outside your window right now?
No, why?
Because it looks like a squad car has got its lights going right
Yeah,
behind.
right. No, that's the welcome to Las Vegas sign flashing in the background.
It is the welcome. I wasn't sure what I wasn't sure about that, how that would work out. But I wanted to have a little background changed around. And actually, one of the things I forgot to do during the pre-show, I was testing out my light scenario, and of course, I forgot to turn it on. So listen, watch this now, ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages. If I do this correctly, let's see. I think this is the one. Yep, there it is. Look at that. I got it.
Oh, now we're talking. Yeah. Big points for that.
Yeah, there you go. Now, thank you, Wayne.
I just sent you in Messenger a link to a resort property / full production recording studio near you that you should buy.
Well, very good. I will buy right after the show.
Is it for sale, or are you suggesting that he?
Oh, it's for sale. And it's a house with a resort like area and rental spaces and a full recording studio in Phuket.
Wow, Jan, you got to look into that.
Something that I would love
into.
I would love to get involved. I'm just not working hard enough as it is. So I think
you need to have a recording studio. That way, you can import people like us over there to hang out at your recording studio.
I'm sure Greg would come over and hang out for months at a time.
Oh, that would be wonderful. I wonder where Greg is today. Oh well. Anyway,
from Florida, Greg.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I mean, hey, and I wouldn't have to buy any new mic stands. I could use him. That's it, as the human mic stand.
Right.
That's what he considers himself. Hey, by the way, just an FYI, going to a completely different subject. I just wanted to point out that March 9th is National Slam the Scam Day.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah, slam the scam day. And you really have to be, I mean, right now, scamming is at an all-time high. It's like every other text I'm getting here is some sort of scam. The phone is ringing off the hook with scams. And whatever you do, if you get a message on the phone, don't push any buttons. If they say push 9 to, and they're very elaborate right now.
Well, I got a question for you. So I got numerous voicemail messages from this phone number that said, and then the message says something along the lines of, "We have lots of funding available for your company. Call us back at this phone number, and we'll set you up." So I got so many messages. I was like, I need these messages to stop. I need these people to stop calling me. So I called the number, and I don't know what the scam is, but it doesn't even connect. So what do you think?
Well, basically what they do is and this is going to be changing as of the end of March right now, just so you know, that now legally, they all have to have a disclaimer. If they're doing a mass texting or a mass phone, they have to disclose that it is a scam, or that it's not, they have to give you a choice to opt out. At least that's with text messages.
I get this every single day. It starts at 6 a.m. here because it's 9 a.m. East Coast. And I get texts and calls, maybe 15 a day, every single day of my life, for people trying to give me money. And the reason I called the state attorney general and tried to figure out what was going on. And it's because I have what's called a UCC filing, which is, when you get financing for something, business financing, it's like having a lien on your house. They register with the state that you live in, so that if you just vanish on them, they have a record with the state. The legit finance company has a record with the state, so that they have a recourse to come and repossess the gear or whatever. So that's all fine and legit. But for some reason, those UCC filings with the states I don't know if they got leaked or breached or sold.
No, they're public. They're public. It's a public record.
domain. So these guys, these predatory lenders, they just go through those things. They get your information. It's all right there for anyone to get, phone number, the whole deal. And then they spoof a local number. So they're all calling from New York and Florida and Texas and stuff. And they're in these call centers. You can hear 800 people in the background having the same conversation. And they spoof a local number so that you'll answer. Because if you see an out of state number that you don't recognize, you're going to be like, whatever. But if you see one from like, you know, for my case, from like, you know, Bellevue, Washington, it's 30 miles away. It might be a client. It might be somebody that I know. So you end up answering. And if you try to call it back, it's a non-working number because it's been spoofed and routed through a local number.
Yeah. A lot of these guys, the more sophisticated ones, use a number that is very close to your number. So if your number ends,
I get plenty of those. Yeah.
Let's say your number ends in 4444, you're getting a call from 4443.
Or I get a lot of you know, my area code, my exchange, is that still a term? You know, the 3 digits after the area code, but then different last 4 numbers. That's very common. And
because that's psychologically, you think that it's going to be one of your neighbors or something.
Yeah, you gotta answer it, just like Kurt said. You like, it could be something real, you know. But the phone companies, like my phone company, filters it, you know.
Well, basically, all phone companies now have some sort of scam filter. And basically, you could also report these numbers, which is pretty simple, but it's not simple enough unless you're using like robocall, for example, or UMail. But the reality is I stopped using that. And now if I don't recognize the phone number, I don't answer the phone, because that's when I'm paying good money for voicemail.
So here's the question: in my particular case, like, I get why Kurt got those calls, and I assume that you, when you answer it, do you tell them I'm not interested, and do they ever call you back?
I have a few different stock things. Sometimes I will tell them that I'm sitting on 10 or 12 million, and I can lend them some venture capital at a good rate. That usually makes them go away. Sometimes I'll ask them what time they have dinner, and then can I get a number and I'll call you back right around then. That ends it pretty quick. But usually I try to play with them for a while. I'll pretend, like, one comes to mind a couple months ago. I had the guy, I asked him what his favorite tree was, and he wouldn't answer. And I said, well, I'm not doing business with anybody who doesn't, know anything about trees, because I grow African hardwoods in a greenhouse and I build musical instruments, and I need $2 million for a new greenhouse. And
it would have been a lot funny if you say sequoias.
That could be real. Okay. That could be real.
And so I tend to play with them. I've done stuff where I talk to them, but I only use words from a Chinese menu. So I pretend that I don't speak English, but it's all just food items from a Chinese menu.
Fantastic. Well, I'm not that creative. I'm not nearly that creative, but
it can be fun after a while.
So yeah, but annoying at the same time, right? That they're continuing to call. So my question to you guys is, with my case where they left me numerous voicemail messages, what's my recourse? I got to get them to stop calling me and leaving messages.
Okay, your recourse would be this. Number 1 is to block the number. Number 2 is to report the number to the spam service of your phone company, whatever phone company you're with. They do have a spam service, but it's really impossible. The reality is
they'll just call from a slightly different number, every
that's
time.
Right. The reality is just not answer the phone, let it go to voicemail, and then return their call, those legitimate calls.
You're on a list somewhere.
Obviously. I got another question for you, and that is, I recently signed up with T-Mobile. So I'm now with T-Mobile instead of AT&T, which I was previously. Okay. And with T-Mobile, maybe it's a T-Mobile thing, maybe it's an every carrier thing, but I never experienced it before. I get a text message that says, this number dropped this message for you. And it's like, the phone didn't even ring, right? And it's the same message that is in my voicemail, but it's in a text message form. Is that a T-Mobile thing? I should probably call T-Mobile and ask them.
I would say that's a spam thing, because I don't have that. So what I would recommend for you with T-Mobile, and it's very, very simple. It's a free app. It's called Scam Shield. Scam Shield. and it's free, and it's with T-Mobile. So now T-Mobile has two services. They have a paid service, which there's no reason to have, and then there's the free service for the Scam Shield. And so what happens is that when you do get a phone call that you don't recognize, you just open that app, and then there's 3 buttons on the side at the very top next to the magnifying glass. And if you push that button, I believe or if you push the magnifying glass, it will give you the ability. It'll tell you if it's a scam, likely or whatever. And then there's a reverse lookup field, and you paste the number in there, and then you just report spam and what the spam was. And
Interesting. Well, that's cool.
everybody.
That sounds cool. Well, I'll
So
have
let me
to check
ask you
that
a
out.
question, Kenny. You saying that when you get a voicemail, you get a printout of that voicemail?
Well, I got that in the voicemail section of my phone, but also in the text message section of my phone, it says something along the lines of, and I can't look at my phone right now. Actually, wait, I could look at my messages.
Well, it
says-
sounds like you have a visual voicemail.
Well, yeah, that's in my voicemail section, but in my text messages.
Well, voicemail to text. Because they
Okay.
have that option with T-Mobile.
Oh, is that what it's called? Voicemail to text? But it
Voicemail
doesn't
to
happen.
text.
It doesn't happen with every message, though. Is the interesting thing.
Every voicemail?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's accurate, right? And it's
Oh
not-
yeah, it's the same. It's the same text that's in the voicemail.
Not asking for
part of my phone.
There's no links. There's no.
Yeah. Well, there's a phone numbers in there and stuff. I can't even find it. I must have deleted it. But anyway,
It doesn't sound like a scam. It sounds like a picture.
that part of it. I mean, I feel like that part of it is cool. And by the way, your video is frozen, David. You look like you're sound asleep, but I can hear you talking.
No, I'm wide awake.
Yeah,
My
right.
computer needs to be rebooted.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Do it right now.
So just so that we're cool on this, Kenny, when you open the app, it'll say activity. There's an activity button, and then right next to the magnifying glass, there are 3 dots, 3 vertical dots. And if you click on the 3 dots, one of the choices, reverse number lookup. You paste the number in there, and then it'll give you a choice it'll tell you who has that number, and then you could report that number, and
Very
you'll
cool.
never be bothered again.
All right.
So-
Awesome.
I'm back.
Anyway,
Hey, there he
another
is.
thing.
There you go.
Yeah. So I mean,
What?
look, they're out to get you, and they're not out to get you per se, as a cognizant human being that's got thoughts. They're looking for the people who've got dementia. They're looking for the older people that don't know any better.
They'll just
that's
push the
what they're
button
looking
to send $10,000 because they told me to, kind of thing.
That's right. I mean, one of the big scams is that they'll call people up and they say, "Hey, we have your grandchild held for ransom, and if you don't send us the money right now, we will do something deadly to him. We'll do something
Right.
dastardly," and they freak out and they just, what can I tell
Yeah,
you?
but they do that even worse. Somebody calls us and says, "Hi, Grandpa. I'm in jail and I need help."
Yes, yeah.
Is that really the grandson calling?
No, but
No.
grandparents fall for it all the time.
No shit. All the time.
They
really.
don't call to verify with their grandkids?
No, they're old and they don't know any better. I mean, like that, like I said, they're just looking for people with dementia or people
So, like,
who are,
low hanging
like-
fruit in the scam world, right?
that's it. And and it costs them nothing to do this. So if they get 1 out of 10,000, it's a profit machine for them.
Wow, I could go on talking forever, but I really got to get going. So, wow, it was great seeing you all. Great chatting with you. Thanks for all the amazing info. And hopefully I'll see you next week because I have next week off.
Hey, before you go, I just want to ask you one question, and then you can come back and talk about it next week. And that is, if someone asks you how old you are, what's the first answer that comes up to your mind?
80.
80?
Yeah, because life begins at 80. Why? What am I supposed to say?
Well, when
Other than-
somebody asks me how old I am, I usually think I'm 21. The first answer I
okay.
want to say is 21.
I like to say I'm older than I actually am, so that they're really impressed that, like, wow, he looks so young. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Well, that's pretty good for you. But you look pretty young no matter what. You
Pretty
don't
good
look
for
as old.
pretty good
You
for
don't-
80,
you don't
bro,
look
right?
as-
I mean, my skin
Obviously,
is
you
hardly
don't look as
wrinkly
old
at
as you
all.
feel.
Yeah, Ken, you don't look a day over 76.
Exactly.
That's it.
Right. Great.
Anyway.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, you
Thanks
guys.
for
You have a good
coming.
one.
We'll see you again
Thanks
next
for
week.
having me. I'll see you.
Listen,
right.
Kenny, just so you know, Friday, I'm supposed to have a Zoom. Oh, he's gone? Goodbye.
Yep, well, when he goes, he goes fast, man.
Right.
Anyways,
Anyways, I was going to say, Kenny and I are both sitting back and not able to attend a Barry Manilow show at Carnegie Hall. He's being honored with a full Pops orchestra, and Charo is going to be there, and she's going to sing Copacabana. I'm not going to be there, and Kenny's not going to be there because we're both on the Milliken show. So
really?
Barry
So
and
who's?
Charo without.
I guess Barry's not performing. He's just being honored.
Well, generally, but sometimes they come up and they sing. I don't know. And Charles only doing one song.
Well, there you go. Now we have something to look forward to. I want a complete report next week. But all right. So now we're going to go around the room. So when people ask you how old you are, do you think of your immediate age or not? Because most people don't. And there is a interesting, really interesting article that I read in the Atlantic, and it says what that most people. In the article, the headline basically is, or the teaser is the woman says that I'm 53 years old, but in my head I'm 36, and then she goes on to doing this, it's an in-depth article. So it's not just about me, BSing people about what I think. Let me just read this. Why do so many people have an immediate intuitive grasp of the highly abstract concept, subjective age? It's called, when randomly presented with it, it's bizarre if you think about it, but certainly most of us don't believe ourselves to be shorter or taller than we actually are. We don't think of ourselves as having smaller ears or longer noses or curlier hair. Most of us know where our bodies are in the space, and that's called proprioception. But when it comes to our age, we basically think immediately of an age that we're not, but we believe that we are inside. Like somebody asked me how old I am. I usually say, well, I'm 21, but I'm really not. And there's actually a reason for that, but I'm not going to get into that reason. You have to read the article, and we'll put the link. But could you guys relate to that?
Well, sure. I mean, everybody sits back and says, how did I get this old? I don't feel this old,
Yeah. I mean, her mother is 76, and when asked, her mother says, she's 45. And then she said, no, I'm really 76. And I do the same thing all the time. It's hard for me to believe that I've gotten to be this old. And where did the time go? And how much good experiences I've had. So.
Well, I have to deal with the fact that there's definitely ageism in our industry. And so the older I say I am, the less desirable I sound as an engineer. And true or not, for reality, the reality is that's the way people look at it. So there's
ageism everywhere. I mean, if you in any aspect of it, it just seems the only place where it really doesn't.
In this business, 85% of it is under 35.
Well, there is such a thing as frequency hearing, and as you get older, your frequencies and most people lose frequency hearing. And in our industry, especially when it's loud, we lose our highs faster. But as you get older, if you've noticed this, most conversation, and this basically is a conversation I had with John Meyer of Meyer Sound Labs, is about articulation. And that's one of the things that he instills in his product is articulation. I think Kurt would be a good person to talk about this, but basically what John told me is most people speak in a mid-range tone. So when you go into a louder environment, the mid-range is the hardest thing for you to hear as you get older. And John has been working on that concept so that he can make it so that you could actually have a conversation with the music loud. Kurt, you want to bring something into this?
Well, a lot of it is phase response and localization. And, we use phase cues much more than amplitude cues in order to determine directionality and how to, for instance, exactly what you're talking about, focus on the person in front of you in an ambient environment. Look at a dog's ears. What they're doing is they're triangulating based on the reflections so that they know where things are. So a lot of your ability to discern direction and your spatial location comes from the way your brain interprets phase more than amplitude. And with Meyer, they've been so in depth and so focused on phase accuracy and phase linearity for so long. That's what really sets their product apart, is its phase accuracy. A lot of other manufacturers kind of throw that out the window to sacrifice to get amplitude and other things, coverage patterns, things like that. With Meyer, if it isn't phase correct, it's not going to make it past the first R&D step.
Yeah, and so basically
it's about.
Yeah, so basically that one, let me just, sorry, go ahead, continue.
I'm just saying that the critical component is the phase relationship and how accurate the phase representation, the reproduction of the original signal is in the phase domain, much more so than the amplitude domain or even the frequency response domain.
Right, and that's also coherence, same kind of thing.
Yes, phase coherence. And the other thing I would add is that, yes, as we get older, we may lose measurable frequency response, but we've also been trained to perceive all of those things in a much more accurate and complicated way than the average person who has no idea how any of that stuff works. So we know what to listen for better than a 25-year-old who has never gone through the entire process of training themselves.
I definitely feel I mix better than my hearing because I know what I
perceive things now. Little subtle things like using tube compressors and listening to what they do and things. I perceive them now better than I did when I was in my 30s. And there's no way that my hearing is as linear as it was then. I don't think it's bad. The other thing is I actually talked to an audiologist friend about it, and people's hearing and ears are unique in their tolerances and in their longevity. It's not like everyone who gets old has bad hearing. Some people's hearing never fails them. Some people never need glasses. Some people have crappy hearing when they're 30. It's the physiology is different from person to person. So you can't make a blanket statement that older people can't hear. Some older people can't hear, but that could have a lot to do with what they did for a living and what their environment was and whether they were careful about it, or sicknesses or illnesses or diseases they had along the way. There's all of these other influences. You can't make a blanket statement that older people can't hear accurately.
Now, what I was talking about earlier was not frequency responses. I'm talking about how this industry is run by young people who want to hire other young people.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And that's a whole different animal.
I've had a guy at front of house who's completely capable and one of my best guys that I hire, who's a year or two younger than me, but he's totally gray ponytail. Great engineer, no problem. And the woman who was producing the event was like, that's not the image we really want to portray out there to the public.
There you go.
I'm like, he's one of the best engineers around here. You're lucky to have that guy. And the fact that he's got a gray ponytail should have nothing to do with it.
Well, that's my whole point.
Yeah,
so when people say, how old are you? It's really, do I really want to tell them how old I am? Because first of all, I certainly don't feel this old. The only thing that makes me feel this old is when I extend it to my body and my body says, you're not quite 35 anymore. But in my head, I'm still young. So it's whatever the limitations are physically.
Well, I would think that it's another example of that, or the best aspect of it is your experience. And I'll give you a perfect example, is that a lot of times we get paid not because of what we do, but our ability to do it if there is a problem. So for example, if you're mixing a show and there's a challenge, your experience is going to give you the heads up and the leg up on anyone else who is just getting started, because you probably have experienced this at one point or another and you know what to do. It's like getting on a plane and you see the pilot has just got out of college compared to on a plane and seeing a guy that looks like Sully Sullenberger behind the wheel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Experience counts, but you know, it's interesting. In the days of analog, the engineers who were around the longest knew where to look for those hums and buzzes and, you know, voltage problems. In the age of digital, it's not quite the same thing. You know, the younger kids have a heads up on their side that's almost as good as what I used to need, but no longer need in experience.
And they don't even have the lighting guy dumping all that voltage to neutral to ruin everything.
Right.
Yeah, well, they're mixing with iPads, you know, as well, you know, so.
I used to tell people when I was younger what my age was, but that I had high mileage. And it was funny then. It's a little less funny now. Because both are true.
There you have it.
I have to add to David's there on the hums and buzzes and the experience. If you're doing analog and dimmers in the 80s, like I used to painstakingly build the whole system, as you know, to be aware of star point connections of Earth, the whole scenario. Where in digital world nowadays, it just seems to be so much easier, but you don't need that experience anymore. But you can never beat experience. I don't feel it. You need education, but experience in doing the scenario is always going to be just an advantage. And the other thing on our hearing, I think what Kurt said about you learn, absolutely, you learn to. Even if your hearing's getting worse, you know what to do with stuff, you know what to listen, and you definitely mix better as you learn more. The other thing is, I think our transient response as we get older is the thing that changes sometimes more. So in other words, clouding. So if you're in a group of people, you can't hear that person that's close to you because you don't hear the transient of their voice. But in music world, we just teach ourselves to hear things and connect it to our thinking more than the average person.
Well, and there's hearing and then there's perceiving. And we perceive, that's like the argument with the digital sampling rates and stuff like that. I guarantee you, I can perceive the difference between, you know, a digital console and, you know, a gamble. It's not that my high frequency response is so amazing that I can tell the difference from that perspective, but I can perceive the difference, and you can perceive things well above 20 kilohertz. Whether you can hear them in the traditional measurable sense, maybe not, but does it have an effect on you psychologically? Are there psychoacoustic elements that are triggered by your brain and those frequencies that are not a measurable response parameter? I think so. That's why you can, you know, subjective things like it sounds open or natural or three-dimensional or things like that, or those are things that are comments that are made about analog that would never be made about digital, but they're not measurable. They're perceptions, but those perceptions are based on something.
And digital boards are filtered extensively after 20K, I believe. Digital
Look at the phase trace on a digital console versus a really high-end analog desk like a Midas or a Gamble. The phase wraps are going to be all over the place, and that phase, and it's unrealistic. Your brain expects things to sound a way that they're supposed to sound, and they have a phase relationship that your brain expects to have in order to process it correctly. You mess up the phase relationships, which is going to happen in all of the aliasing and all the filters and everything in the converters, versus an analog throughput that never gets converted, or you know, there's all this aliasing and all these other things that happen in the digital domain that just aren't there. It doesn't sound natural to your brain because your brain's analog and has been programmed for millions of years to perceive analog cues and analog phase relationships. And you mess with that, and that's when things start sounding weird. And then you can compound it too, because if you have a amp modeler that's pretending to be a Marshall, and then you've got a drum machine that's pretending to be a drum kit, and then you've got samples of strings and all that, start compounding these things, and they may all sound reasonable on their own, but you start adding these errors and they're compounding on top of each other. If everything's 5% off and you got 20 things, suddenly you've got a lot of phase relationships that don't sound legit or real to your brain on a very subconscious level.
Yeah, and then of course you also have to be really cautious when you're mixing that basically that your speakers are in phase with one another, so that the audience gets a good, and there's no overlapping of phasing between your left side and your right side.
Yeah, and even throughput on a digital board, if you have different processing chains going on different things or different subgroups, you could end up with latency at the output of the console between related signals that become out of coherence as the very just by the fact of how many plugins you've got on one thing versus something else. Even the leakage, if you've got a bunch of plugins on a vocal and your drum mics or your vocal mics are picking up your drum kit, and the drum kit has a parallel compression process or something, you're gonna have two different times, and all of that wash and all that leakage that in the analog domain might be a little annoying, it's all still going to be in phase.
And that's where your experience comes in. That's exactly where the experience comes in.
I'd rather
someone just starting out wouldn't be that adept at figuring all of that out, especially if there was a challenge.
Yeah, I'd rather have an older analog guy in a digital scenario if something happened than a guy who's only been on digital trying to troubleshoot, system issues with drive lines or, power or things like that, because they really haven't had to deal with those noise issues. And that what you've learned to deal with those noise issues can also be applied to other issues, with your digital snake path and things like that. So there's definitely something to be said for experience.
There sure is. And with that in mind, well, I guess I've got a few other stories I want to cover, but I don't think we have time for those today because we're running up to the hour. And so if there's anybody that has anything else that they'd like to say, now would be the time to do it. Okay, that's it. And with that in mind, just remember everything that you heard today is an opinion. So do your own research. Make sure you do that. Make sure you give us a thumbs up if you like it. Subscribe to the channels wherever you might be listening to this. I want to thank you all for participating. It's been a great experience, and once again, we'll do it again next week. Remember, you make it happen. Make it happen. Stay safe and healthy, and we'll see you again next week. And with that, we're going off the air right now, and we're going to stay around in the room and chat some more. So if you want to join us, send me a DM and we will invite you to be on the panel. Talk to you soon. See you next week.
Waka waka.
So Kurt, here's